everyone today to our students and faculty and friends alike, people who are collaborators. And thank you, Victor, for initiating this program. I think it was very thoughtful of you to think of having a roundtable for us for Women's History Month here at Stevens Institute of Technology. The IEEE is a professional organization of engineers. We also have a special affinity group associated with women in engineering, and many hands have been involved with this planning group today, not to mention everyone who's here, but also lots of people who couldn't be here today, some of whom are on this first presentation view graph. As a matter of fact, some of our colleagues wished they could be here, but they, of course, have to work or are at a great distance. Today we're going to have a little introduction by each of the members of the panel, and then we have 4 question points, which are just meant to introduce a topic. They're not meant to be formally maintained as the structure of the talk, so if anybody feels there's something more interesting and compelling to speak about, please feel free to do so. Thanks very much. So one of the things that we thought would be interesting was to look back and see what does women in engineering look like in our modern time. And what we can see is that the very first woman to be represented by the organization, which is currently known as IEEE, is Edith Clark, who presented a paper in 1926 on steady-state stability and transmission systems. She was the first woman to become an electrical engineer professor in 1947, and the first woman to become a voting member of what became IEEE as recently as 1948, which I think is pretty recent, considering the fact the organization was founded in 1884. So I think it's pretty incredible that in spite of the fact that there was an engineering organization of professional engineers, there hadn't been any females who had been admitted as voting members until rather recently. And there are some very interesting and inspiring people who some of our friends who are here today have told us about. Professor of Biomedical Engineering and Director of Computational Intelligence Laboratories at Rutgers University, who is an inspiring person. We have some more inspiring people. Here's some pictures you may recognize. I think I've seen most of these images for as long as I can remember. When I first saw them in the very early 1960s, and then I kept seeing them year in and year out, the same faces, and I wondered, isn't anyone else doing something? Isn't there anyone else doing? What I didn't appreciate until this project and this very time in my life is how incredibly amazing these people are, and how inspiring they are. And so I hope we continue to share their stories into the future. Does anyone recognize any people here?
Yeah, thank you, Emma.
Yeah. Now what can
Yeah.
Can you tell us? Can you?
Yeah. Go ahead.
No. Raghu is going to videotape Victor telling us about how you
Yeah, she very brilliant, strong lady. She started off as an actress, and during the Second World War, she was able to invent what we call spread spectrum for security. And she used the piano because of the piano's keys. So she used that as the basis of invention in spread spectrum. And that was used during the Second World War.
It was, and not only that, but it was ignored for quite some time. Her credibility was questioned. Mm-hmm. And it may be one of the most interesting examples of a person who had great background, excellent education, and determination to resolve problems, presented them to the right people, and still had difficulty
getting recognition.
Exactly. And now, many years later, we realize and recognize how much she actually achieved in her life. She also designed planes. She was quite involved. Howard Hughes gave her complete freedom and liberty, an entire team of people to help her with her engineering ideas. You know, and this is something that we can learn from. That it's not always about what you know and how good you are and how much you try and what you want to do. All of that stuff has to come together. You have to have advocates, you have to have resources, you have to be on a
Yeah, it was
Well, a
difficult
few-
those days,
yeah.
but we hope that the next generations to come will make things easier.
Yeah.
And
it would
equal
be
for
really, really
all.
cool. So there's a lady in there who invented the windshield wiper blade. There's a lady in there who, because her husband became ill when the Brooklyn Bridge was being built, she took over the entire project. Yeah. I mean, it's an amazing. The woman who invented Kevlar is there.
Mhm.
You know, it's quite an amazing group of people. Next slide, please. So I wanted to introduce Lieutenant Colonel, Professor Dr. Katherine Kennedy Pegues, who could please take a few moments and tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I graduated West Point in 2002 with a degree in mathematics. So I spent 4 years working on math and did electrical engineering. And to get some fun out of the time while I was at the academy, I also took German for 4 years. Because I found out that all the great trips were through foreign languages, and they never let engineers go on fun trips. So I signed up for a minor in foreign languages so I could travel. And then once I graduated at West Point, I went on and became an aviation officer. So I flew Blackhawks for a long time and commanded. And then at some point in my life, after I'd been married, I switched over to operations research analysis and got a degree from the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterey, California, which is quite beautiful. And I worked for a research fellow for the Chief of Naval Operations. The Army let me out. And I worked on the convergence of sea power and cyber power for how we were going to operate 40 years from now. After that, I went back to the Army, and eventually they sent me back for a doctorate, so I can now teach at West Point. On staff and faculty. So I teach the Department of Systems Engineering.
You know, there used to be a professor from Stevens that went to West Point
Oh, really?
in systems engineering, yeah.
I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah.
I would love to have them come up. That would be wonderful. I'm always looking for guest speakers for my classes. So that's
Paula?
Paula.
Well, nice to meet you. So I'm originally from Chile, but I spent some time in Switzerland, and then at the end I finished my PhD in biomedical engineering at Rutgers University, and that's where my path crossed with Mrs. Dr. Evangela Michele Tazzanaco, and she was, I was thinking driving back here, she was all of the above. I mean, my friend, my mentor, my role model. I will talk more about her later. So over the years, I crossed paths with Raghu many times, the same boss, electrical engineering, and lately, 4 years ago, I started my own company with the purpose of building technology that helps seniors communicate with their families. Those seniors that feel that basically at the end are isolated and lonely because they are not taking the advantage of technology that, like all of us, can take advantage with our smartphone, computer, and you name it. So that's the purpose of my company, and I've been developing the technology to reach that goal.
Where are you located?
Kahina.
My name is Kahina Lasfer. So I graduated from Stevens Institute of Technology with my master's in computer engineering. Then I joined Lucent, like your colleagues here. At that time, it was very vibrant in software development and working with TDMA, CDMA, UMTS, CDMA 2000. So I worked in different fields, which is I started as a software engineering. I hated programming, I must say, but I love the algorithm part of it. And I moved to the software architecture, and that's how I embraced the system engineering a little bit through my some of the colleagues I worked with. Then I did testing and integration. And then from there, I kind of took some time off to raise my children. And I was teaching a few classes, and I met this great professor, Dr. Artmeister, who invited me back, who said, I'm building a system engineering research center. If you can help me out, and we can work on the hours, and being a mother is not easy. So he let me work from home for some time, and he said, what do you think? We can do your PhD and at the same time working on the research center. And that's how I finished my PhD, and I found this opportunity working with MTA. met Raghu, colleagues from Lucent again, and I love it at MTA. I worked with the design management group, and we're designing a lot of communication project in the subway station. So you might go to a subway station and you take a look at the train arrivals, for instance. That's part of the project that CPM does. Some of the help points. Again, if you need some information, you push on the green button and somebody talks back to you saying, how can I help you? So there's a lot of technology behind that. Lately, the last year, I'm working in construction management office, which is basically taking what we have designed into construction. And that's such breathtaking of experience, just being close to what is being developed into deployment.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay, I'll talk about myself. I'm so glad here today to see so many old friends and also my colleagues, previous colleagues here. For me, I'm originally from China, and I came to the US for graduate studies, and after that I started working for Bell Labs, and at that time I think I get to know Raghu also, right, from IEEE activities, and also got to know Victor. And meanwhile, I was doing my PhD study at Rutgers University in computer science. And after that, at that time, I worked at Homedale Building for quite a few years, and Homedale Building closed down, and we all moved to Murray Hill. So at that time, I decided to make a change. So I came to Stevens, and I'm so glad at the time I saw Victor again here at Stevens. And so Victor has been my mentor for so many years, and I've been working at Stevens. So I started I switched from industry to academia, and started teaching and also doing research work in computer engineering mostly. And my work is in mobile computing, mobile sensing, and also for the cybersecurity and privacy area. And I feel it's great to be with the students, and also to teach and doing research that gives me the freedom, to think about what I like to do, and meanwhile I can come in the knowledge that I learn to discuss with students, and also not just to talk to them in the classroom, but also outside of the classroom, in the labs, and also in my offices. So I feel it is a great academic environment. And 2 years ago, I moved to Rutgers University, and again, there are my previous advisors, PhD advisors are there also. So I've been surrounded with my other colleagues that I've known for many years. So overall, I feel that both Rutgers and Stevens, it gives me the good feeling is that for both public school and also private school, they are different. But the good thing is that they all give me the opportunity that I can work with students, and I can grow, and also grow with the students together, and also interact with my previous colleagues and current colleagues at the same time. So I really appreciate this opportunity, this kind of opportunities.